This is the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. Here's Robert Kiyosaki.
Today's show is for you out there. You know, I often say to people, if I gave you $5 million a year, would you quit your job? I'll say it again. If I gave you $5 million a year, would you quit your job to work for $5 million a year? You know, it was a question that was passed to me when I was a lot younger. They said, "Oh, what would it back then? It was $1 million. What would you do for $1 million?" And I was kind of cocky and arrogant and all this stuff, and I said, $1 million is not enough. You know, just my attitude on the whole thing. So I mean, that's really what we're talking about today. It's really about those of you who are hanging on to a low-paying job, but you're not getting ahead, but you hang on for that paycheck and the benefits, or you hate what you do, but you hang in there for the paycheck, or you hate your old man or your old lady, and you still hang in there because you need the other paycheck. You know what I mean? Money, as much as people say it, or I'm not interested in money, but money affects all of our lives, one way or the other. So that's why with the Rich Dad Radio Show is to kind of challenge the way you think, offer you different points of view and insights from people who have let money, you know, got rid of the idea of money. So that's what we want people to go free at Rich Dad. So my sweetheart Kim is taking her sister to the airport right now. So standing in is Greg Arthur, and he is going to be replacing King. Morning, Greg.
Good morning. And yeah, not your sweetheart.
No, I don't call you my sweetheart.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. And our guest today is Vontae Davis. And this guy is famous, infamous. And why is he infamous? Like I said, if I asked most people, what would you do for $5 million? Most people would do anything. But what Vontae did is he walked away from $5 million. In fact, he walked off the field at halftime during a professional football game and walked away from $5 million. Now, that takes a lot of guts. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But it's really not about Vontae. It's really about you. Because even though I was flat broke, I wouldn't accept $1 million because I knew I could make more than that. But other people would do anything for $1 million. But Vontae walked away from $5 million. So the question is really about you. What would you do? Would you hang in there for $5 million? Or would you walk off the field and become infamous? Greg, you know about what he did. What did Vontae do?
Yeah, so I remember this. It was a huge talk with me and all my friends. Vontae, like I was watching the Arizona Cardinals game, and next thing you know, like they interrupted the game to let us know that one of the Buffalo Bills players at halftime just got up and quit, just retired right then and there in the middle of the game. And we were all like totally confused, and all of a sudden rumors started flying everywhere like, what is this guy doing? He just gave up everything he worked for in his life. He just gave up all this money, and then we're like, is he fighting with his team? Like what could possibly? We all decided concussion. It had to be a concussion.
So Vontae, welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show.
Robert, how you doing? Thanks for having me, man.
Well, no, thank you, because it's really not about you. I'm really talking about everybody out there who is working for the man or the paycheck or job security or the pension, whatever they're working for. And at least you had the guts to stand up and face it. So really, what caused you to walk off the field at halftime?
Well, like you said, at that point in time, you know, I had a sort of an out-of-body experience, and the money wasn't on my mind at the time. You know, after walking away from the game, I realized that my health is a main priority in my life at this point, and I was willing to sacrifice the $5 million because that wasn't more important than my health at the moment.
Because there's a lot of you know, things about concussions and long-term damage. The NFL covered it up for years and years and years. I had a really good personal friend. You know, I played rugby together, and I watched him die over 10 years. Because he could never get his brain back in his helmet because he played for Dallas and he played for the Washington Redskins. He was all NFL pro. But I slowly watched him die. But how much of a motivation was your health the reason for walking off that field? That's $5 million too.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, like you said, there's no amount of money you can have or make to obviously put your health on the line. So, like you said, hearing a lot of these stories, CTE, and I mean, there's no amount of money that can bring back your health. So, health was, is very a motivating, came into a motivating reason why, obviously I left the game.
So, Vontae, this is Greg, and a lot of people get up and do some crazy things that people don't understand. But like, it's just hearing your story. Did you calculate like how much money you had in the bank first? Did you make sure like your family was taken care of before you made this decision, or was it that impulsive that you just like health first and I got to get out of here?
Well, I always knew when I like my fourth year in the league, I was always good with my money. So I conducted myself in the league every year of my career as if that year was stopped, I would never get another paycheck. So I always was financially literate. I always was prepared. So I knew I would be able to lead the game whenever I wanted on my own terms. So money wasn't an issue to me. Like I said, it was majority of my health. I knew I'll be financially stable because I took care of my money when I was playing the game. I was very into, just saving. I saved over 80% of my money. So
Jesus.
I always knew I'll be prepared when I could leave the game of football.
So for people who might hate their job right now, that would be step one. You got to plan your exit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And that's the best thing I did when I was my third year. When I was a young guy, I used to obviously I was very in tune with my finances, and I believe that came from like reading books like Richest Man in Babylon, your book, The Rich Dad Poor Dad. That always encouraged me to obviously learn about money and know how money works and be able to use money as a resource to work for you. So physically have to work for money all the time.
Well, you learn well, Vontae. You learn well. All of you listening out there, get my book. Now, is very good because what Kim and I decided to do when we got married was we set a goal of when we would retire. And a lot of people don't think about retirement until it's too late and they can't afford it. They don't have any money set aside. So our major priority was retire first. That's why our book was called Retire Young, Retire Rich. And most people don't think about retirement until sometimes it's too late. I think that's step one, number one here. But let's get back to football. How did you get into football? How did you start and all that?
Well, I have an older brother. His name is Vernon Davis. Vernon, he also plays in the NFL. He's actually still playing. He plays with the Washington Redskins. So my brother, it was great having a brother in the household as well because he motivated me. I never really liked the football. I always liked the basketball. But being around my brother, he motivated me, and football became a game that I eventually started to love. And, I did it out of fun, and I realized I was good at it, that I was able to, to obviously make it to the NFL.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Washington, D.C.
Oh, my God. And what college you go to play?
I went to University of Illinois, in Champaign-Urbana.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. And then how was the transition from, let's say, college to pro?
Oh, it was completely different. Your talent no longer gets you by in the professional level. You have to become a student of the game. I remember my first game, I almost retired then because I didn't think I belonged there.
Was the transition from college football to professional football, was that big a difference?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. The level of ability goes to a whole different level in the National Football League.
Jeez. And then what was your family background? Did you have a good family, bad family? I mean, because my roommate at school in New York was from Anacostia in the D.C. area. And he said he had to move out because it was too rough for him. The neighborhood,
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I came from some very, unfortunate circumstances. Both my parents was addicted to drugs. So my grandmother, she came in and adopted me and my 6 other siblings.
Jeez.
It's 7 of us total. So, my grandma, it's people like my grandmother, who's there to who's there to change my life. Because if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't have known my siblings. We would probably have been splitting up in the foster care system.
Well, I hope you're taking care of your grandma.
That's a good point.
No, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. She don't work anymore. She don't have to worry about nothing.
Well, you give her a big hug for me. Would you do that?
Yeah, I will do. Will do.
That woman's a saint, man. She's a saint. Amazing, amazing.
Is she the reason that you valued education so much? We keep hearing about, especially athletes, football players, who they make a ton of money and then they retire and they're bankrupt. And it sounds like that is not your case. You made a ton of money, but you got yourself educated as well, so you were smart with it. Where did that need for the education come from?
Yeah, I would say my grandmother, man. She always told us football was our choice to play. She would always say, if you don't have to play football, you could do anything else. She always told me that. And that always stuck with me. So that would made me always obviously interested in other things like money. I mean, money is a key component to living. Like if you don't understand money, you can't provide, you can't live comfortably, and you can't take care of your family. So I always knew that was a big thing to learn about was money.
And you can't walk off the field if you don't have any money. You got to keep playing.
Absolutely.
So what message would you pass on to somebody listening right now who is thinking about, what the hell am I doing? I'm stuck in this job. I'm not making enough money, or I hate what I do. And what advice would you have for people today?
Well, I would say don't be stuck in a job that you don't love doing. I mean, it's a lot of people that's stuck in a job that they don't love doing, but they will show up for the paycheck. I would be a lot more happier having a job that I love doing, making half the amount of money.
Well, 2.5 ain't bad, Vontae. Come on, give me a break. When you get down to what I pay these guys, $2.50 an hour, then you complain.
That's only funny to you, Robert.
It's not funny to me. I mean. So anyway, so there's a book called The Middle School Rules of Vontae Davis by Sean Jensen, SeanJensen. What is that book about?
Well, it's about lessons I've learned from my grandmother growing up in Washington, D.C., some of the obstacles I had to overcome, and the lessons that still stands with me to this day to make, obviously great decisions and make great choices in life.
Because did you grow up in a pretty rough area?
Yeah, a lot of my friends are either probably, incarcerated or they're no longer living. So the neighborhood I grew up in was very, very rough neighborhood, drug-inflicted, gang violence. And, me and my brother both was able to overcome those things and obviously continue to do good things in life as well. So
let me ask you this. A lot of guys blame their environment. They blame the gang, the hood, their friends, and all this for them going down, taking the road to the left versus the road to the right. And, your book, Middle School Rules of Vontae Davis. What lessons do you want to pass on to young people, especially if they're trapped in the hood?
Well, education, like you said, is key. I always educated myself, and I always, my grandmother always told me, you don't know what you don't know, Yep. So you have to always learn, and anything, I always ask questions. I'm willing to reach out to people if I don't know anything. I'm humble enough. I have enough humility to go out and ask people if I don't know anything. And I was always curious about learning new things. And I think that's a trait that I always had that kind of taught me throughout my life, is being willing to learn and listen to other people and humbling myself to ask questions.
So Vontae, like in sports, you always have a coach, so you always have someone to ask, or a teammate. When it came to your money and learning about your finances, who did you have? Who was your financial coach, or who did you go to for advice?
Well, I lucked up and married my dream woman, because my wife, she's actually an attorney. She's a lawyer. So any questions I had, even if it was like sitting down with financial advisors, I will always sit with 4 or 5 different financial advisors to obviously compare and contrast the differences between all of them.
Good for
and that
you.
was a
Good
skill.
for you.
That was a
Good for
yes,
you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's good for you. It's very smart.
That's
ask
what you
different
do.
questions. Be humble. Ask.
I mean,
Yeah.
Robert
No,
still does
absolutely.
that. He has his own team of advisors. He still goes to regularly.
Yeah, because I was never smart in school, so I learned to cheat. I learned to ask advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and these are things I was doing when I was playing in the NFL. So I started to build good habits for myself. And I believe that really helped my transition of just building good habits around money, finance. And now, obviously I'm able to go through the process seamless when it comes to finding the right people that you need around you and to actually work for you.
Good for you. Great formula. Hey, when we come back, we'll be going more into what does it take to walk away from $5 million and what advice we have people who are stuck, who are just paralyzed. So we'll come back, we'll be going more with Vontae Davis. The book that was written about him is The Middle School Rules of Vontae Davis by Sean Johnson. And it's really written for people who are stuck, including kids. We'll be right back. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. You can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android and YouTube. and YouTube. And please leave a review whenever you listen. Okay, to hear our podcast, go to richdadradio.com. And if any questions, just use hashtag AskRichDad on social media, and we will answer any questions. Or if there's a common question that repeats, we've got so many questions. And this is one of the most important ones, is how do I quit my job? Most people are trapped. They went to school, they got that job, and then they're trapped. So that's why we have Vontae Davis today. He's a guy who walked away at halftime, major pro football team, and he walked away from $5 million. Any comments there, Greg?
Only that that would terrify me, first of all, just to step away from that money. And it sounded like Vontae really did it right, because the first thing he talked about is he got educated first on how to handle his money, and that gave him the freedom then to make these type of choices, which is amazing. But what I was really curious about is, like he says he did it through his intuition, right? And like, that's a ballsy move just to do from your gut. And so I want to know, like, how did he get really permission to listen to his own intuition on such a level that's going to affect his finances, his family? Like, when you affect your money, you affect every area of your life. And so Vontae, I was just wondering, like, did you have a spiritual guider, a guidance, or how did you really get the courage just to listen to your gut like you did?
Man, it just came upon me. My grandmother, she prays a lot. She has this war room she goes to, and she's been praying for years over our family. So, it could be my grandmother's blessings coming down.
That's awesome. Is your grandmother still alive?
Yes, she is. She's 78 at the moment.
Wow.
Yes.
I'll give her a hug, like I said. I know, I'm just going to pass this on. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I've always quit my jobs because I had to move on. So my first job was with Standard Oil of California, making a lot of money, but I quit to go join the Marine Corps because I got to serve my country. And then when I was in the Marine Corps flying in Vietnam, I realized I was lied to. And that was kind of disgusting because I couldn't fight anymore. I couldn't kill anymore. But you have to. And then when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, my rich dad said to me, he says, depends on what you're going to do. You're going to follow in your poor dad's footsteps. Then you go back to school, get your master's, get your PhD. Or if you're going to follow in my rich dad's footsteps, he says, be an entrepreneur. You got to prepare for it. You got to have the skills. The number one skill of an entrepreneur is to sell. So that's why when I was still in the Marine Corps, I was planning my escape, from the Corps. And that's why I started applying to companies that taught me how to sell. Because sales equals income. And that was such good advice from my rich dad, because the reason I'm not afraid of not having money is because I can sell. It's like I said, I'm a best-selling author, not a best writing author. And most people just don't have the skills to sell. So that's why we endorse network marketing for so many people. Even if you're not successful, learn to handle your fears, your doubts, and all that stuff, because otherwise those doubts and fears are there anyway. So anyway, so going back to Vontae, you're going into becoming an entrepreneur now, and you have a wellness spa called V-Zone. Is that you're going to provide holistic therapies that help people sustain a healthy lifestyle? So it's really all in keeping, isn't it? You walk off the field for your health, but you go into the health field and healthy lifestyle business. Is that correct?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Obviously, I want to be able to sustain a healthy lifestyle as long as I possibly can. Be there for my kids, be able to run around with my kids. And as obviously the stories with retired NFL guys, you hear a lot of, obviously things that affected their health long term. So that's what I'm focused on now at this point in my life.
So where's this V-Zone Wellness Spa going to be? Where are you going to start it?
Oh, it's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Where all the rich people are?
Yep.
Very smart, because rich people have time for health. Poor people don't. That's the sad thing about it. So let me ask you this question. Actually, Sarah, our engineer, asked us this question. Have any other NFL players talked to you about quitting or their health?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of guys reached out to me, just checking on me and just asking, obviously seeing where I'm at in life, and a lot of these guys, I try to talk to them about far as just having an exit plan, having a plan in place, far as what they want to do after football, because I try to tell them football is not a career. It's just a game. It's going to stop at some point, and you have to have a plan. And I mean, it's like any other business. Players are commodities right these days. So whenever you get injuries and everything, you become expendable. It's a business. So I try to explain and educate you guys on that, just to have a plan after the game of football.
So let me ask you this: how prevalent now is it with concussion and all these movies coming out, and like my friend John Wilbur dying, and he couldn't get off drugs because the pain was so high. How much of a concern is it today in, let's say, a lot of parents are saying my kid's not going to play football and not going to go to the pro, but how is the word about concussion especially and brain damage affecting the sport?
Oh, I mean, it's really affected because guys are becoming more aware of their bodies. They're becoming more aware of the degenerative diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia. So guys are becoming more aware. I recently just read something on Joe Namath. He's actually opening up a hyperbaric chamber facility that's opening to obviously help with CTE. So guys are becoming more aware, and I think it's good that this information is coming out because there's a link between repetitive head trauma to CTE. So I mean, it's great to have this information come out and guys becoming more aware of it.
But how much of it? If you have a son?
No, I have no kids yet.
No kids. Oh, I thought you did. If you had a child or a son, would you have him play football?
That's a good. I probably wouldn't have him play football. I wouldn't force him to. I wouldn't force him into football. I would obviously give him a whole lot of other options to play. But if he liked football that much that he wanted to play, I mean, I can't keep him from it. If it's his passion, if it's his love, I can't keep him from his passion or his love of the game.
And is the league doing anything to help the concussion problem, or with equipment? Or I know that they're calling the game tighter. But is it
yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what the initiative they are taking, but obviously when I was playing, no, it wasn't. I believe they're trying to change the helmets to get safer helmets for the players. That's the last time I seen them trying to improve like the concussion protocol.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Wasn't it a big deal this offseason that one of the players refused to wear the newer helmets, and he wanted to wear an outdated helmet, and he was willing to take the concussion risk and all those things. Do you personally, have you suffered any lasting injuries? Anything that you wish you would have quit a little earlier?
Like you said, the concussions, as like the movie the concussion movie that came out. I mean, all
Will
this
Smith.
stuff brought awareness, and I always had in the back of my head the effect that CTE can have on a player long term. So I always knew about concussions, you know, and like you said, if I would I have quit it earlier? I'm not sure, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear that a lot of parents are pushing their kids towards basketball, which it sounded like you wished you would have stayed with anyways. But they're saying that could have negative effects on the NFL because the product eventually will decrease because the best athletes will go to other sports.
No, absolutely, right, absolutely.
So we're running out of time here. It's interesting talking to you. We're getting into sports and not money and preparation and all this other stuff. Because I know I have severe concussions in my head, but it's because I used to box like an idiot, and I can't take a punch. So I've been knocked out so many times. But anyway, and I feel it today. You know, my brain is just not there all the time. But it wasn't from football because I wasn't that aggressive a player in football anyway. But boxing, they go straight for your head or the body. And it's an interesting sport there too. So let me ask you this: what does the next year hold for you? When you know you're spreading the word, you're getting it out there, you're encouraging people to prepare for the exit to get out of the game as fast as possible, which is what we do at Rich Dad. You know, escape from the rat race as soon as you can, and then once you're out of the rat race, then keep doing what you love. It's not a matter of retiring because I don't retire. I like what I do. So what final words would you have for people? You know, you walked away from a $5 million a year profession. What advice, what final words would you have for people?
Well, you know, follow your intuition, you know, because your intuition rarely steers you wrong. And looking back on the decision I made, it was one of the best decisions in my life. And because right now I'm able to obviously, you know, set my family up, do things that's going to help me long term, like focus on my health and things that's going to make me continue to improve, just in general.
That's good. That's good. And a final word, sir, Greggy?
No, just really inspiring, especially with your grandma, how that one woman changed so many lives, and actually her core foundation that she gave you to better yourself and always educate yourself is what ultimately gave you the freedom to walk away, which then ultimately protected your health. And it's just like that one woman changed a lot of lives, and that's really amazing. And it's probably why you're on this radio show right now.
She's changing a lot of lives right now.
Yeah,
People
just
are
listen.
listening to this.
Yeah, like think of the power that one woman had by taking responsibility really for
grandkids.
You. Yeah, not even her job to do, and she did it, and she
amazing woman
changed your life.
So let me ask this question.
Absolutely.
Is your V-Zone, your wellness spa in Fort Lauderdale, is it open yet?
Not yet. We're looking to open January 1st.
Wow, you're close then.
Yeah, getting close. Yep.
So what kind of facility are you in? A shopping center, or are you in a hotel, or what? Where are you located?
No, commercial space.
How many square feet?
1,500 square feet.
Pretty good. Well, anyway, I'm proud of you, my friend. You know, I mean, you caused a lot of controversy. I didn't hear about it. I mean, Andrew Luck was also, Andrew Luck, I was surprised, walked off the field. And Andrew Luck, for those who may not know it, he's a Stanford guy. He's really, really smart and really, really good at quarterback. And he still walked out from the pro football scene. So it's an interesting time there, Vontae.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I played with Andrew Luck. Like you said, he's a really bright guy. He's also very in tune with his body. I mean, me knowing him as a person, I'm not too surprised. You know, Andrew Luck, he's the type of guy that, you know, he's very you know, when he makes his decisions, is very like, yeah, very, 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 very stern decision. So I'm not too surprised him leaving the game either.
He thought it through, right? I mean,
What was that, Rob?
You guys have really, because your physical health is your asset. And so
Right, absolutely.
And so for you guys to say my asset is more important than the money, that's a pretty important statement.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
So anyway, Vontae, congratulations. Please give your grandma a hug. I'm very proud of her. And for those of you who have kids or want to know more about Vontae, his book, not his book, but the book, The Middle School Rules of Vontae Davis by Sean Jensen, Seanjensen. Please read it because it's about how Vontae came through a D.C. neighborhood teeming with drugs and gangs. And young readers will will learn how Vontae thrived with the support of coaches, teachers, teammates, friends, and relatives. But no more important than his grandmother. I think that's the thing that's most impressive is that all through Vontae's success is never lost his humility. And I think if you're arrogant, you stop learning. If you're humble, you'll always keep learning. So stay humble there, Vontae.
Thanks, Robert. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
Final words, Greg?
Just really nice to meet you, Vontae. I can't wait to tell everyone that I got to talk to you. It's a real honor. Thank you.
You too, Greg, man. Thanks. Nice meeting you as well.
Thank you.
Take care. Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. The good news and bad news about money. You can listen to the Rich Dad Radio program anytime, anywhere on iTunes or Android. And please leave your review with us. And you can listen to our podcast again at Rich Dad Radio. Again, we record we store our podcast so you can listen to it again and again and again, discuss with your friends. Because with education, if you listen to this program with Vontae Davis one more time, I think you'll have a spiritual experience going, why am I working when I don't like what I'm doing? You may start to question things that you kind of suppress here. So again, all of our programs are archived at richdadradio.com so you can discuss with yourself, friends, loved one, and business partners, and maybe get on with your life other than just working for the money. And if you have any questions, use hashtag AskRichDad on social media, and we're happy to answer any questions, or we do our best to when there's a series of the same questions. So what I'd like to do is have a little discussion with Greg here. Greg, what do you think about spirituality and money? And people talk about doing what you love, but I think very few people have that opportunity, right?
Yeah, totally. We always say that money is important. We always say that, but we always say it's important because it's a tool. The money is what gives you your freedom. Like you taught me that from day one that I was here. And like the Vontae story is such an example because would he have been able to, or would he have had the courage to listen to his intuition, his gut, his spirit, if he didn't have the money, if he didn't lay that foundation out?
Yeah, if he didn't prepare for it.
Like, right? Maybe he would have. I wouldn't have that much courage in me.
No, they say 65%, these are the average stats, of professional or high-paid athletes are broke in 5 years.
Yeah.
I was, I won't mention the guy's name, but I was in Las Vegas, and the guy pointed to this one guy in the corner, and the guy was a famous boxer. And he was completely like me, drooling. His head so beat up, and all he could do was stand there with a guard's uniform on, and he was flat broke.
Oh, that's
he made
sad.
Millions off of one fight.
Oh.
It's
but yeah,
funny.
But you also always said it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And that's where the education really kicks in. Like he could make all the money he wanted to as a boxer. What good did it do him?
Right. Well, money will never get you there. It really won't. So anyway, one of the things I stress here at Rich Dad, which I didn't do for much of the time, was because once Kim and I had enough money, the question is, what do you do next? And if Kim and I had continued to work for money, I think I would have died. So when Kim retired, she was 37 and I was 47. But just as we said with Vontae, it's one of your primary objectives, especially today, is when do you plan to retire? Because, the idea of having a job and waiting for your 401k or your stock market to save you, I think you're going to be sadly disappointed because what I'm foreseeing is a massive crash coming. It's going to wipe out a lot of people. And I'm coming out with a new book called Who Stole My Pension? And all these guys who think their pension is safe, I think Wall Street has other ideas on their pension here. So when I say to young people like you guys, I said, plan your retirement the day you start working. When do you escape from the rat race? That's the cash flow game there. So when Kim and I got married, we gave ourselves 10 years. I said, in 10 years, we're going to be out of here. And that's kind of what Vontae did. He's out of here. You know, he's free man now. He can be an entrepreneur, do what he wants to do. So for Kim and I, we weren't really, really rich. We were making about $10,000 a year. We had $3,000 in expenses. We're out of the rat race. But it wasn't the money. It was the experience we had of investing in capital. You know, there's capital income and there's income from labor, capital or labor. And by learning how to have capital or money work for you, Kim and I were free. And once we were free, we got richer and richer and richer and richer and richer because we learned how to have capital work for us or money work for us versus labor. And as you know, we always have Tom Wheelwright on here, a CPA. Is the harder you work with labor, the more tax you pay. It's really tragic. And then I'm going to do a show with Millennial Money with Alexandra Gonzalez. I didn't really realize until I looked into it, the millennials are really screwed. You know, you guys aren't millennials. You're in between there. But the millennials have really been toasted.
Oh, yeah.
They're toasted. So they can't sit there and just go to school and work hard and get a job because my generation, the boomer generation, when we were 35 years old, we owned 25% of the economy. So at 35, we owned 25. Gen X, I think you guys are at, you own about 15%. The millennials is 3%.
Oh, wow.
They have nothing. Plus, they're coming out of school with student loan debt that'll choke a horse. And so more important, please pay attention to our little program called Millennial Money with Alexandra Gonzalez, because the millennials have been screwed. It's horrifying what faces them. Another program that Sarah set up is with Christina, my personal assistant, is how I got started. So it's really time to start thinking about how you exit this so you can get on with your life. You know, like I keep telling you guys, I don't want you to leave, but I don't want you to need the job. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you're working. You're having a good time because you're working, so you don't need the money. And you get richer and richer and richer and richer once you learn to have capital work for you versus labor. Any comments there, Greg?
Well, it goes back to, it was, what was it, Friday, you actually came in and you said to me, getting rich it's not difficult. It's actually, it's simple. It's not easy. It's simple. All you do is you keep buying assets. You're like, it's that damn simple. Just keep buying. And that's really what you're talking about, because assets is your money working for you.
Right.
And yeah, the concept is super simple. And then our fear and our little voice gets in the way and scares us from actually doing it, because we only understand labor because we've been taught that from
go to school, get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing about health is that, you know, I spend sometimes $10,000 a visit on special doctors because I can afford it. I don't need health insurance. I mean, I use it if I can use it. But the rich can afford better health. And that's what Vontae's saying, you know, and that's really the future. So when somebody says, well, I'm not interested in money, then they say, I'm not interested in my own life here.
Yeah.
And that's why at Rich Dad here, we really stress financial education. The stock market doesn't make any sense right now. I mean, how can you have quantitative easing, QE, which is counterfeiting money? They're just printing that crap. And then they ZERP it, zero interest rate policy, so you get paid nothing for your savings. And banks are going broke, insurance companies are going broke right now, but the rich are getting richer here. So we've never been here before. So nothing else, you know, I thank everybody for listening to Rich Dad Radio, and know that money is important. And I like to spend money, as you guys know, as much as anybody else. I like it. But money is very, very important for your health, wealth, and happiness. So again, I want to thank Vontae Davis. The book is The Middle School Rules of Vontae Davis by Sean Jensen. And his new spa opening up is called V-Zone in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
làng quanh co sông thu êm đềm hà diều đã bóng đắm say giữa đồng kỷ niệm yêu thương trong tôi ngày ấy tiếng ru gọi hãy nhớ biết bao tôi xa quê bao năm tháng qua nhưng trong trái tim không bao giờ xa lời mẹ ru con hiu hiu chưa hè mùa lụt nước lũ bắt cá giữa đường biết